anything coming out. Deez, what else do you have lined up for this segment?
Did you see the Nancy Mace who was in the alien thing, which we'll talk about? We got to cover that as well.
Yes, we do.
But she was late, almost late for a prayer breakfast with Tim Scott.
I did see this.
And she says in front of the press, when I woke up this morning at 7, I was getting picked up at 7:45. Patrick, my fiance, tried to pull me by my waist over this morning in bed. And I was like, no, baby, we don't have time for that this morning. I got to get to prayer breakfast. I got to be on time. Have you seen Nancy Mace?
I have seen Nancy Mace.
My money says he wasn't grabbing her on the waist, because I want to shake her daddy's hand. She's blessed.
Yes.
Yeah, he grabbed something, but I don't think it was her hips.
Hey, you know what? God bless her. Okay, so she's having some fun.
Look, she's human. Like,
yeah, I mean, you can still pray. I mean, maybe she was praying the night before. It sounded like it. Who knows?
Yeah, she's.
I'm not going to say it on the show, but you know where I was going with that, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
See, Aldonzo and Deez are good at those in your windows. Isn't that what in your windows?
Yeah, in your windows.
In your windows. Those sexual in your windows here on the Aldonzo and Deez show. We're known for it. But no, coming up on the next segment, we got to touch on the aliens. We have to do that.
Yeah.
I want to touch on aliens. And so anyway, as promised, we have more news of aliens, which I just want to get this out there in the open before we go into the story, Deez. To me, I believe in aliens. I believe that they visited us. There's some UFO or UAP, they call them now. What is it? Unidentified aerial phenomenon? Is that what it is? UAP?
Well, yeah, there's another one. Unidentified anomalous phenomenon.
Yeah, something like that. So there's some of those I discount because people saw the Starlink satellites and they're like, well, what's going on here? Aliens are invading. So I don't believe everything I see when it comes to this, but it's kind of hard for me not to believe it. But I do want to set this as a bit of a caveat here. This is absolutely coming out as a distraction right now. The timing couldn't be any more perfect.
I wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
No, the timing couldn't be any more perfect for this. We're going to get into the story. You got that pulled up, Deez?
Yeah.
All right, let's have it.
We talked about it last week that they were going to have a hearing. Well, they had the hearing. And some interesting snippets came out of it. The man that basically started this whole thing, David Grush, was there and testified, as well as a couple of others, including one of the former pilots who actually witnessed some of these UAPs in flight, and asked whether the government has possessions of such vehicles, these of non-human origin. He replied, absolutely. And he says, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years and where I know the exact locations that the UFOs are kept, and those locations were provided to the Inspector General. He was also asked whether or not they had recovered pilots, and his reply was, yes, biologics were recovered. And she says, human? He says, non-human.
Okay, so.
In other words, aliens. Also was asked, has anyone that you know ever been harmed or threatened in any way? And he replied, absolutely.
Now, harmed or threatened by the government or by a non-human?
By the government,
okay,
to keep these secrets.
Okay, just want to clarify.
And then he was asked if he had ever been, or if anyone he knew had ever been murdered. And he said, it's not something I can talk in a public setting.
So why is this guy, let's think about this. So I'm not discounting him. Why is this guy allowed to come out and talk about it? He had to have gotten a sign-off. Somebody had to have signed off that he can do this. This should be the biggest news that the world has ever heard.
Yeah.
And it's somehow not.
And this is testifying under oath in front of the whatever committee. I don't know if it's oversight or whatever, but and he said there was another question of do you believe the government has made contact with intelligent extraterrestrials? Mace are rather
delicious.
Yeah.
As Tucker Carlson would call it.
Little morning Randy congresswoman. And he says it's something I can't discuss in a public setting. So he is keeping some secrets.
He is. So first of all, somebody had to have given him permission to do this. And it was the government that gave him permission to do this. And they gave him permission to do this for a reason if he's telling the truth. Would you agree with that?
Oh,
there
for
had
sure.
to be a reason that either they copped out and said, we can't keep this under wraps anymore. The American people need to know. They need to know the truth, which the government's never said that. Or somebody in the White House said, we need a distraction.
Here's more on the
That's
quote.
what this is.
The quote I was talking about. It says, she was asked whether he faced or had any personal knowledge of people who've been harmed or injured in efforts to cover up or conceal these extraterrestrial technologies. And he said yes. Asked whether he had faced any retaliation or reprisals himself, he said he had, declined to say more, citing an investigation was underway on his behalf. Says it was very brutal and very unfortunate, some of the tactics that they used to hurt me both professionally and personally, to be quite frank.
Okay, so I want to say this too. For the people listening, this is my theory on this. I believe there's no way that any government in the world, let's look at China, let's look at Russia, North Korea, I don't know. Let's look at Great Britain, let's look at Europe. There's no way that none of these leaders and none of these governments didn't have the idea of we got to make contact with them first. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
That's the first thing they're going to do is try to figure out who they are and make contact with them and get them on their side. I don't think that's happened yet, though. I mean, I'm sure there's been contact made with them. I'm sure they've attempted contact. But obviously, nobody swayed these beings, whatever they are. Nobody's gotten on their good side enough to where they've got the technology.
Well, I just think that they've figured out that the human race is beyond saving at this point, and
so
they're just going to sit back and watch it happen.
So this is going to tie into it as well. This whole war in Ukraine is, like we said, was heating up pretty good. We're seeing all these anomalies, these UFOs supposedly, allegedly, as Dees likes to say, allegedly coming out. And you got this David Grush, and I guess that UFO sightings have increased exponentially over the past couple of years, have they not?
Yes.
So something I was reading about, and this is really interesting, folks. I guess that UFOs have been seen and have been blamed for shutting down nuclear missile silos, like taking them offline.
Yeah, you talked about that a few weeks back.
Right?